Hello everyone, reshooting today's live because I talk too fucking much. I'm gonna try to make this in 15 minutes. All right, we're gonna review everything real quick just because I wanna make sure we're on the same page. We've gone over the squat, we've gone over the hinge, and we also did some extra content last week. You should really go and check out. That's on bracing and breathing because that is really the most important foundation you can have on any kettlebell skills. Today we're gonna learn the swing, which is so exciting. Swings and ballistics are the most fun thing to do with kettlebells, obviously. And then we're gonna do a little bonus video later on with some extra moves that you can do so that you have a full, well-rounded kettlebell workout. So, without any further ado, let's start back with the very basics, your plank. So, I said in the very first live that the top of your squat and the top of your swing are both planks, right? Fundamentally planks. So in your goblet squat, you have your elbows pulled together, right? Like this. I mean, it's like this, but you know what I'm saying. And just like in a plank position, you're biasing your pelvis into a posterior tilt. That means that your hip bones go behind your pubic bone. Neutral, remember, is when they're on the same line. So you bias into a posterior tilt, your rib cage is pointed down, your quads are flexed hard, right? So you do fully extend your knees and your glutes are also flexed as hard as you can. And then you kind of like rotate your elbows together so that you can feel your lats engage. The top of a swing is more like an extended plank. So you're out here, right? Still shoulders down the back, lats engaged, right? There's a little more to work with here because you can activate your triceps as well by extending the back of your arm. Same thing though, posterior tilt, ribs down, navel to spine, squeeze your butt and squeeze your quads. And remember in the breathing and bracing bonus material, we went over the breathing. If that doesn't make any fucking sense, go back and watch the video. Okay, so just to show you the plank real fast, and also, so this will be a little bit of a warm up, right? You don't just want to start grabbing weights and throwing them around. So, gonna start with the forearm plank. You have your forearms like so. Extend one leg back and then the other, okay? And then so you see my profile. Just like I was saying, right? You posterior tilt your pelvis, squeeze your glutes as hard as you can, squeeze your quads. Think about trying to pull your elbows together. Think about trying to pull your elbows to your toes and your toes to your elbows. Squeeze everything and then do your hardstyle breathing. And you can do that about 10 times. It should feel really taxing, but you're trying to create as much tension as possible, right? So then if you carry that over to your extended plank, right, your hands are gonna be directly under your shoulders. Extend one leg back and then the other. Bias to a posterior tilt. Hug those armpits in. Rotate elbow pits forward. Ribs are down. Squeeze those quads, squeeze those glutes. Hands to toes, toes to hands, and okay? And you really want to feel, when you're doing that breathing, your abs like flex, okay? And that's gonna be the breathing that you do at the top of your swing, just like the breathing that you do at the top of your squat and your hinge, okay? So to review the squat, because it all ties in together. You straddle the bell. The balls of the big toes are on either side of the handle, right? Because to pick up the bell is a hip hinge, right? So you don't want to pick it up like this, and you also don't want to pick it up in a squat because that's not, especially as the bell gets heavier, it's not smart. So your hinge, right? Hold on to the handle, shoulders over the handle, lats engaged, chest higher than hips, right? That's your hinge. So to get the bell into position, you get into a hinge position and then pull the bell up to your chest. So that's called a two-handed clean. And that's an exercise in and of itself, okay? So you can do that. And you want to give it a little momentum. Most people are afraid of hitting themselves in the face with the bell. I think that's a valid concern, but I haven't seen it, so just don't be dumb, right? Two-handed clean right there. In my squat, I like my toes a little wider than hip width. turned out slightly. Remember, this is completely individual. And then the initial movement is a hinge. Sit back. Think about pulling your knees open from your feet and sink so that your elbows arrive about in between your knees. I think this is a better vantage point. Sinking down. And set it down in that hip hinge. If you can hear my knees, awesome. It sounds pretty fucking terrible, but I was a distance runner for like 13 years, so they're a little crunchety, but I don't experience pain when I do squats, so I can do squats. Okay, so let's get to the swing. I'm gonna move this giant fucker before I stub my toe on it, but it will be back. Okay. See how I'm picking up the bells with a nice straight back? There's literally no point to learning any of this shit unless you apply it to your day-to-day life. You pick stuff up in a hinge with a flat back, okay? Okay, so hinge position is with your body straddled over the bell, and then you take a step back for your swing, okay? Just one step back. It doesn't have to be like a Herculean effort. Get this. Feel claustrophobic. Okay, so I'm gonna push your hips back. Remember, I endorse the karate chop into the hip creases, right? Belly of the hamstring reaches back, nice flat back. Hands wrap around the handle. So remember, the top of the bell is the handle, the sides are the horns. Hold on to the horns for the goblet squat, handle for the hinge, and swing. So, hands on the handle, and then you tilt the bell. You see how I did that by pulling my shoulders down on its knife edge and sit back. So if you've done a barbell deadlift, you know that that's the exact same setup. And that's how you load your posterior chain, right? So now everything, if I was using a barbell, everything's behind the barbell, and now I can pull my hips through. It's the exact same thing with the kettlebell swing, okay? Well, not exact, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, so push the hips back, hold on to the handle, tilt on its knife edge, drag. So you can see, hopefully, my lats were doing the job there. Probably most common error I see is either not having the bell on its knife edge, so not like, want it like right along that seam, so they just let it like flop down. You see what that does to my back. And then from there, kind of pulling it under like this, right? And you can see, that's all lumbar spine, baby. You're not gonna get very far in your swing. But usually what people do is they set up for their swing like shit, and then once they get into the momentum of it, it cleans up. But remember that first swing, just like your first deadlift, is the one where you're most likely to hurt yourself. So you have to know how to initiate the movement well or you're fucked, okay? Just not to be dramatic or anything, but that's just reality. So that could be your first exercise, the drag. Sit back, hands on the handle, tilt, drag, lats. Really learn to get connected with these guys. They shall set you free. Sit back, handle, tilt, drag, okay? So then the next movement is the hike. The hike, much like the drag, people tend to set up wrong and then kind of hike from here, right? But where you want to be is your hip hinge, right? Not to be a broken record, but you know. So hips back, hands on the handle, tilt on its knife edge, sit and drag, and now hike, 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 okay? So notice the bell ends up in the same place each time, and that's right back on its knife edge, right? The bell also comes up really high, yoo-hoo, between my legs. Whoop, whoop, okay? And that's exactly where you want it. So you can tell if you didn't set up your hike well if the bell comes low, because that means that you're doing something like this, okay? Remember, let me look down your shirt. I have to be able to see your sternum, chest higher than your hips, okay? So then, from there would be your swing. But again, I would say at least for your warm-up, do some drags and do some hikes. And they can be quite challenging if you do like 10 hikes in a row, and just really try to work on your precision of letting the bell come back to the same spot every time and in the same fashion. It just takes practice. You're not going to be amazing at this at first, so don't put that expectation on yourself. Okay, so now the swing. I'm going to do it with my hair down, even though I might blind myself, but you know, those are the breaks. Beauty is pain. Hinge back, belly of the hamstring back, right? Knees don't come forward, that's a fucking squat. Sit it back, hands on the handle, tilt on its knife edge, drag, hike, and pop up. So I want you to notice that I'm at the top in a plank position. Slight posterior tilt of my hips. Ribs are down, shoulders down away from my ears, glutes engaged, quads engaged, right? And then it's just a hinge, just like your hinge that we did on Friday. So if you were able to do this in front of a mirror, one thing you could do, set up in front of that mirror. It's gonna look majestic. Hands on the handle, tilt, drag and sit back, right? Here's my chest, not here, here. Hike and pop up. So at the top, right back where it stopped, right? But at the top, each time you could see the bottom of the bell, right? Perfect circle. If the bell is up here, there's a very good chance, I'm not gonna trip on this bell, there's a very good chance that you're arching at the top, okay? Or the other possibility is that you're elevating your shoulders, which usually means, well, you're using your arms, but it usually means too that your bell is too light and you need to try to get a heavier one. I know we have a kettlebell famine right now. Everyone and their fucking sister wants a kettlebell. I'd like to take credit for that because I've been telling everyone to get a fucking bell. I want my commission for that shit, but whatever. Get a fucking bell, try to get a heavier one. Women, 35 pounds, men, more like 55 pounds. But you can't go wrong. You will work up to all those weights, okay? Okay, other things to worry about or to look for. If the bell ends up low, see how my hips stop moving, right? My hips stop there. What's finishing the movement now? My back, right? I'm not in a hinge. Chest is higher than your hips. Also, the bell can end up too low because you're squatting, right? And with that, that's trickier because you can keep your back in that position that you want, right? Back of the head, thoracic spine, and tailbone all on the same plane, right? All on the same straight line. But you'll know the bell is down here that you're squatting the bell, right? And that really makes it a lot easier to get into your back. Plus, you're only using a fraction of your potential strength, and it's not a kettlebell swing, okay? Other things that you can look for, especially in that initial hike, right? I already showed you guys that, rounding too much, stuff like that. Those are probably the most common things. So video yourself. Just put the fucking phone up against a water bottle or something and just watch yourself from the side, right? And from the front. If you have a mirror, that works really well too. And just check yourself. If your knees are coming forward, you're squatting. If your back is arching, your back is arching. And you're no longer in that ideal spine position that we want. As always, you guys are welcome to send me a video if you want me to just take a quick look at it, ask me questions. Trust your instincts. If something doesn't feel right, it's probably off a little bit. Or maybe you just need someone to tell you that you're doing a good job. And like I said before, you're not gonna be awesome at this out the gates. You have to be patient with yourself, especially if you've been doing it wrong all this time. Master the hinge. Master that lat activation of getting the bell into the right place. And if you do barbells when gyms open back up, I promise you, this is gonna make your setup so much more solid. Any questions at all, equipment, body position, why am I such an asshole, anything like that, hit me up with it. I'm making some bonus material for you guys now. I will see you Wednesday for Pilates or Friday for your next kettlebell skill.